It shouldn't come as a surprise that sport can have a big influence on people. On a personal level, it has the ability to evoke powerful emotions and it can provide a distraction from the mundanity of daily life. On a broader societal level, it can unite people from different backgrounds behind a single athlete or team. Personally, I still vividly remember watching my local team win their first major trophy in their history, and the feelings of happiness, relief, and togetherness it brought to me and my fellow supporters. Given the effects that sport can have on the lives of people, it is no wonder that sports and politics are deeply interconnected. Countries can use their national teams to project strength over others and instill unity among their citizens. Controversial regimes can use large international sporting events as a way to promote their country to an international audience. And regional movements use their local teams as a point of regional pride or as a cultural symbol. And when politics rears its ugly head, war inevitably follows. Sports and war have been inseparable since their very beginning. It is no coincidence that many sports, such as archery, wrestling, or athletics, all focus on skills that are integral on the battlefield. Individual sports can be used as a training method or to show off the power of your soldiers, while team sports can teach participants to work together as a unit. However, some cultures take it even farther. They don't just use sports as a training ground, they use it as an alternative to actual warfare. In my most recent video about Cahokia, I already discussed the Native American sport of chunky and its far-reaching political and societal implications. In short, chunky involves participants throwing spears at disc-shaped rolling stones, earning points depending on how close their spear lands to the stone's final resting place. This sport was extremely popular in pre-Columbian North America, to the point where political factions would sometimes use chunky as a non-violent way to settle disputes. Chunky isn't even the only example of Native Americans using sport as an alternative to war. They also had the widely popular sport of stickball, which was played all across North America. The game was first observed by Europeans in the 1540s, but it was already played for centuries before first contact. Of course, a sport that was played by many different groups of people over such a long stretch of time does not have one set of defined rules, but the general idea is similar to modern-day lacrosse. Two teams, consisting of varying sizes, try to carry a small ball towards their opponent's goal using specialized sticks. These goals were usually some landmark, such as a large tree or rock, or simply a stick put into the ground. Points were scored by hitting the goal with a ball, hitting it with your stick while carrying the ball, or by running past a set of goalposts while carrying the ball, depending on which variant is played. The rules and play are only a minor part of the game of stickball. There were many rituals associated with each match, many of which share similarities with war rituals. For a period of time before the game, each player abstained from earthly desires such as women, alcohol, and various types of food. The night before the game, the players participated in a ball dance and a feast. After the dance, players one by one performed a ritual known as going to the water. Upon completion of the match, another ceremonial dance is held. Each team was coached by a medicine man, who also performed many rituals meant to bring good luck to their team or jinx their opponent. For example, each competitor is scratched, which is meant to make their blood flow freely during the game. The sport was also known as the little brother of war. While it may be pitched as a peaceful alternative, stickball was barely any less violent than its older sibling. Teams were allowed to go very far in their attempts to stop their opponent. James Mooney, who lived among the Cherokee in the late 19th century, wrote that almost everything short of murder is allowable in a game. And both parties sometimes go into a contest with the deliberate purpose of crippling or otherwise disabling the best players on the opposing side. Competitors were willing to do anything to come out victorious, which makes sense given that matches often had very high stakes. Stickball matches were commonly used as a way of settling conflicts between tribes or villages. For example, the Creek and Cherokee once had a dispute over some hunting grounds in northern Georgia. The Creek knew that they would be outnumbered in battle, so they challenged the Cherokee to a game of stickball. Refusing such a match would constitute surrender, so the Cherokee accepted the challenge. After a close match, the Cherokee eventually came out victorious, and the Creek willingly withdrew their claims to the land. If we move south towards Mesoamerica, we find another case of sport being used as a substitute for violence. Throughout Central America, they played a ball game known by various names. But I will call it Pokatok for this video because it's the most fun to say. Pokatok has ancient roots, with the Olmec already playing a version of the sport in 1400 BC. Like stickball, the exact rules of the game varied from culture to culture, but some factors remain stable throughout all variants. The game is played on a long and thin field with wider zones on each end, giving it a shape resembling an uppercase I. In general, the goal of the game is to get the ball to the opposing side of the field while keeping it in constant motion and within bounds. Players could not touch the ball with their hands or feet, so many depictions show athletes controlling the ball using their hips, knees or elbows. Judging by the modern-day sport of ulama, which is believed to be a descendant of Pokatok, A team could earn a point if their opponents failed to return the ball without it touching the ground, which means that the sport likely resembled a netless version of volleyball. Many versions of the game, such as the Aztec or Maya variants, also included some sort of goal, such as a stone ring or painted lines. Scoring in these goals would instantly win you the game. These targets were extremely difficult to hit, being positioned far above the playing field. Therefore, winning the game through this method was likely very rare. Pokatok and its variants were extremely popular and widespread, and over 1300 courts have been found all across Mesoamerica. While it was commonly played during festivals, ceremonies, or just for fun, it was, on occasion, used for less festive reasons. In one story, the legendary Toltec king Topiltzin wins control over 3 of his rivals by beating them in a game. In another, King Maxtla lost control over the Tepanec Empire after losing a match. Now, these individual stories may or may not be true. In fact, there is plenty of evidence that suggests that Tepanec was lost in plain old warfare instead of a game of Pokatok. But the fact that these stories are so prevalent lends credence to the idea that using the sport as a form of conflict resolution was generally accepted among Mesoamerican cultures. This theory is further supported by the fact that ballcourts are more commonly found in areas with less stable political situations. As was the case with stickball, it might be a bit generous to describe the game as non-violent, as it is commonly connected with human sacrifice. There are many artworks depicting players being decapitated or otherwise sacrificed. The exact nature of these sacrifices is unclear. Some evidence suggests that captives were sacrificed after losing a rigged match, while others indicate that perhaps the captain of the losing team in an important match is the victim. Finally, we move across the ocean to a small archipelago off the coast of modern-day Papua New Guinea, known as the Trobriand Islands. Around the end of the 19th century, the islands were colonized by the British. During this time, the natives knew a form of ritual warfare called kayasa, which involved the tribes being in constant competitive combat with each other. The British colonizers were not a fan of war, at least when it doesn't benefit them, and they banned all forms of warfare within the colony, which included the kayasa practice. They introduced an alternative way of competing with each other in the form of cricket. Now, the Trobrianders did not like cricket. Oh no, they loved it, and they quickly adopted the sport into their customs. In doing so, they made a number of adaptations from the original sport. I won't go over the exact changes made to the rule set, as nobody knows the rules of standard cricket anyway, but in general, the sport changed to mimic the practices of the warfare it was replacing. For example, the players' bodies and equipment are painted with black and white designs similar to those previously displayed by warriors. They also adapted war magic to curse the opposing players, which kind of sounds like cheating to me, but it doesn't matter as the home team is always declared the winner. Each village has its own team, with its own mascots and sets of entrance, exit and celebration dances. These dances often involve warlike formations or marching, and the chants are commonly designed to hype up the team's players or to mock the opposing team. Matches of Trobriand cricket are organized by local leaders or other important figures in order to demonstrate their village's physical prowess and their own political power. These events are paired with ceremonial feasts and ritual gift exchanges that were traditionally performed in kayasa competitions. So, in this video, we have discussed 3 historical examples of cultures using sports to replace traditional warfare or to resolve conflict. Now, you may be wondering, what's the point of this video? Well, nothing really. I just wanted to trick you into learning some history. But while I have you here, I do have a suggestion. I propose that we take every single world leader and have to compete in a marathon for world domination. This does not solve any problem and would in fact make everything far worse, but I think it will be very entertaining to watch. I'm not open to criticism and will not take any questions. Thank you for watching. I've been Thomas and I hope to see you next video where I'll go on a walk. Hiya!